This is the Digital Marketing Experts Podcast episode. No, why am I trying to sound like a radio announcer? Experts in the Wire, episode 127. Myriam Jessier. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 127 of Experts in the Wire. It's been a little while, but we're back with another fantastic episode with my guest today, Myriam Jessier. Myriam is an SEO trainer and consultant who's been doing SEO for over 15 years. She speaks 3 languages, and I love the content she shares across Twitter and LinkedIn. For context, this was recorded last fall, so ChatGPT and AI wasn't as huge of a thing yet, but regardless, we still talked about a lot, including some surprising tips for technical image optimization, improving our approach to SEO with Librarian skills, navigating keyword intent, gender, language, and algorithmic bias, the pros and cons of working in SEO with ADHD, and a helpful rant about geo-IP redirects, and a lot more. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, Stacker Studios, at studio.stacker.com/wire, and we'll chat a lot more about Stacker later on in this episode. And definitely check out Myriam's new YouTube show with Olga Czar, another past guest, called SEO Cashflow. It's basically a monthly money advice and column specifically for SEOs. This is my longest episode to date, clocking in at almost 2 hours, but it will definitely fly by. So let's jump right in with episode 127 of Experts on the Wire. Myriam, how are you?
Very good. How about you?
I'm doing excellent. I first wanted to ask about your company, your 2-person company called PRAGM. Is that how you say that? Mm-hmm. And what your company does, just like the quick high level of that, and then what your day-to-day looks like, because as I understand, you focus on SEO training.
Yes. So a little bit of background. I ended up being an accidental freelancer. I used to be a marketing director, and I always had a plan A, B, C, D. And I ended up on a couch going, no, I don't know how it's going to roll, but I'm not doing this anymore. So that's when a friend of mine told me, so if I understand correctly, you are available for mandates. You are a freelancer. I'm like, I guess I am. And after a complete meltdown in Rome, I realized I had too much work. And I told my partner at the time, he still is my partner, actually. Hey, are you tired of your agency because you work in technical SEO as well? How about you join me? And that's how we became a 2-person company. So that's it.
And you focus on training, right? So like I'm a consultant, so I mix training into what I do, but I'm also like doing keyword research and strategies and audits and stuff like that. So what does that look like for you? Are you like 100% all in just the training side of it? And like, how does that look for your day-to-day?
So for better or for worse, I share something with Kanye West, I guess. That is not an inviolable thing, but Napoleon is a historical figure I really, really care about. Not necessarily all the bad sides, but as a French person, it's a very big figure that you have. And he made it as far as he did because contrary to most leaders of his time on the military field, and he went into battle. He was the first one out there. So how does that relate to me? Yes, I do teach a lot. I would say 70% of my work is training folks. Mm-hmm. And when I say training, it can be dev teams, it can be marketing teams and agencies that are like, okay, there's been a huge turnover. We have a lot of juniors. How do we level them up? So it's always interesting, but I'm never going to stop actually working because how do I test things? How do I make sure I'm not an armchair SEO? I really do put my hands in there and figure it out.
Yeah, I like that too. And one thing that I feel that happens with myself and maybe others is people see me on Twitter, right? And they see I have a podcast and that I tweet things. And I feel as if, because there are some people out there that don't practice a lot. They don't practice SEO a lot, but they tweet about it a lot. And it comes across as like a little, like, you don't know what you're talking about kind of thing. And I feel like there's people that get looked at that way, even though they, like yourself, you practice SEO and you know what you're talking about. And that's just maybe a little bit more of a rant of my own that I feel the brunt of sometimes when people don't know how to disassociate you with somebody else that just talks about SEO and doesn't actually do it. And I think it's just an interesting thing in the online world, how you really don't know, like just seeing that avatar on Twitter and what somebody tweets.
And to be honest with you, I have an unusual timeline because quite a few people are noticing me in the industry right now, but I've been around for more than 15 years.
Yeah.
And my reality in SEO has not always been fun. What I mean by that is I stayed away because of harassment, and I didn't want to deal with a lot of that. And I decided to come back in at the beginning of the pandemic, I think, because a gentleman disagreed with something I said and decided to basically equate the fact that I was working on my own with my partner as I don't know what I'm talking about and I'm not big enough to handle some specific questions. And it pissed me off enough that I decided to actually start sharing my knowledge, which previously people were paying for. I was like, hey, you know what? Let me have some fun. You say I'm not good. That's fine. Other people will think I am.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up on there. But I do feel like there are a lot of people on Twitter where I read some stuff and I'm like, you clearly did not even bother reading the back of the cake mix box. Like, it's not even that you're trying to bake a cake from scratch. You can't even figure your Betty Crocker way out of things.
Yeah, I like that analogy. And I like your reaction to people giving you a hard time online where you've decided to share, and that's a hard thing to do. And I commend you for that, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of people that benefit from that as well, the ones that are willing to like listen. So I'm happy that you're doing that. I wanted to ask, you mentioned that you learned a lot about how people search for things as a librarian. Going back to being 13 years old, you worked in a public library up until your mid-20s. And I'm curious about that because when I think of a library setting, I'm like, people aren't necessarily typing into a search engine. What did you learn about people searching, and what did you observe that helped you sort of, translate that to SEO?
So library catalogs used to be very terrible. You would search for something, and if it was not in the title, good luck. Or if you were searching for an author but didn't specify you were looking for an author, good luck. Oh. So I ended up with a lot of pissed off people at the help desk demanding that I find them things. And it was very interesting to see how people thought, but also the evolution. So I did it at a time where the internet was nascent, and I genuinely saw the changes in young students who didn't know how to read an index, didn't know how to figure out a book, period, how to like navigate it, because we now have the hyperlink mentality.
Right.
So to me, it was very, very interesting to see that parallel with the way Google handles things, because right now, hypothetically, I could type in like tall, blonde, famous Swedish actor, and Google would know and go, hey, it's like one of these three dudes. Go. This is what I got paid to do, to figure out based on a short sentence what the angry person in front of me was seeking.
Right.
And that's why I learned very fast to actually just figure out these queries, break them down, to have the basic elements and to try to figure it out beyond, okay, so I'm faced with like this gigantic query, what do I do? And another element where I see the parallel between being an SEO and being a librarian is that librarians do try to be benevolent. Like there is this desire to help people. You want people to get the right information. This functions with SEO as well, but twofold. With the end people you're trying to reach by positioning a website, but your clients as well. If a client comes to you and says, hey, something's weird, don't automatically brush it aside and say, no, I know my SEO, everything is perfect. Mm-hmm. Many a times I listen to clients and we did find problems, like big problems we couldn't have foreseen.
Yep. I like that because that happens a lot where a client, it's almost like the beginner's mind situation where they see something, they don't have all the biases that you have of actually doing SEO, which is the contrary. Like we talked about actually practicing SEO, and that comes with challenges. When a client sees something with new eyes, and then I dig in and I don't brush it aside and listen and try to understand, like maybe there's a problem here. Yeah, often we do find issues. I want to go back to what you're talking about is like understanding the psychology and the emotion of the person searching for something. How can we as SEOs translate that into our practice of SEO in a way where we're doing SEO better, right? Like I have a little example that I tweeted about. Some people ruffled their feathers a little bit, but I was like, you can learn a lot by seeing somebody Google something on an airplane next to you, right? And
yes.
like people were like, why are you looking at somebody's computer? And I said, well, I'm not reading their email. I clearly saw it was Google. I glanced over. I saw how she was searching for something. I'm not being creepy. Like it's fine. But I felt like, and I feel as if SEOs don't spend enough time actually watching people use search. And when you do that, even just for a few minutes, and you look at how they click and how they come back to the results and how they scroll on the website they land on, you're like, oh, wow, like that's not at all how I thought people use the search engine.
And I do use that in my trainings. The first thing I will always tell anyone taking a training with me is I go over the anatomy of a search engine result page. And I explain how it works. And you can see people's eyes just go wide and like, this is why this happens.
Yeah.
Okay. And I try to break apart like the curse of knowledge that we all have in our industry to revisit this and explain how this works. Because yes, to me, Googling is a basic web literacy skill. Yeah. So beyond explaining SEO, this is something I go back to. And when we're talking about human psychology, I do have anecdotes and I do have stories.
Yeah.
So for me, working as an international SEO, because I used to be based in Quebec, Canada, which it's a bilingual situation. Huh?
Yeah.
And you can never quite figure out on some queries, is this in English or is this in French? Because the order is maybe the key differentiator.
Yeah.
And adding to this, there's a lot of French immigrants. I'm one of them. So there are some parts of Montreal where a keyword will work, but outside of that French ghetto, you will have regular French Canadians looking for another word to describe the same thing.
Interesting.
This is the type of stuff we have to know.
Yeah.
And most people don't think about this.
And that's the kind of thing when somebody's like, we're not ranking for whatever. And then you tell them, well, the intent's totally different than what you were thinking. That's a really good example of that. And that also speaks to the challenge that search engines have, that I'm always like, yeah, it's easy to speak badly about Google in certain ways, right? Like, it's a necessary evil and that kind of thing. But the marvel at what they do and what they're able to accomplish with understanding intent and everything, like, is pretty incredible sometimes.
And what I find really amazing with this is that this is the type of job I used to do before they got started. So I remember it's been a long time, so I get to talk about it because NDAs do expire.
Yeah.
I was working on the Karl Lagerfeld first e-commerce store. And I'm telling you this, but the truth is you don't care about Karl, you care about Lagerfeld, because most people will go, oh, that's a Lagerfeld skirt.
Yeah.
And in SEO, I had to explain to my clients, please stop putting Karl everywhere. Like the search volume is not there. People are just looking for Lagerfeld. Do not confuse them.
And what is Lagerfeld? What is that?
Oh, Karl Lagerfeld is a designer, like a fancy.
Oh, okay.
He's now deceased, but very easy to break him down.
Okay.
If I tell you like long white hair and black sunglasses, that's the dude. Like you've probably seen his t-shirts with him as an icon on there because of that.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's little things like this. Like even when you work in luxury, you have to explain to these people who are used to selling a lot of things. Hey, online was different. Online is, and they have embraced it. But 10 years ago, it was difficult to let them know, I don't care what you want. This is what's happening online.
Yeah. What do you think about, when I think about trying to understand the psychology of somebody searching something, we talked about some very specific cases of like, you actually have to go to Google and look at manually. Yes. Like, how do you think about, if even possible, scaling that sort of skill, right? That's something I always come back to. I'm like, I always hesitate to try to scale that type of thing. I always look manually in Google.
You may enjoy what I'm going to say. A lot of people listening will be upset.
Okay.
I have a lot of friends who are very, very good at making miracles happen with Python. I'm incredibly good at pointing out where the miracles did not happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a reason why we're two people. We could have hired a lot more. That's not my vibe. That's not with our mission. That doesn't work this way. I much rather teach people how to do it and have a network of people I can recommend than have employees for my own reasons. But, it is what it is.
Yep.
And that's the way I also see a huge portion of keyword research. Unless I slug through it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to have all that knowledge at my fingertips that will enable me to be super strategic and pick up on like, hey, this shower accessory, it's called differently in French from France and French in Quebec.
Yeah. Yeah. I had J.R. Oakes on the podcast a little while ago at the beginning of COVID, and he's the opposite. He's all about scaling and programming and trying to understand intent at scale. But he's like, I love talking to people like you and I that do it manually because he misses things when he's trying to do stuff at scale. So it seems like there seems to be a need for that kind of collaboration between both sides of it.
So my partner is more on the Python end, and he absolutely despises keyword research.
Yeah.
Like it's a thing he ended up always being tasked with furniture or lingerie. And he's like, I don't even know how to think about these things.
Yeah.
So even if you want to scale things, you have to have that seed in your mind, where to go, how to do this. So for example, for me, if I were to consider keyword research, the way I do it, depending on the client, is very different. I had one recently that was fashion, like winter tights.
Yeah.
Well, I went to Pinterest and I went to YouTube because most people are looking for outfit ideas, how to actually like mix and match.
Right.
And if we're talking about colors, like how to do a colored look with this type of color of tights, etc. Yeah. Okay. We have a lot of like keywords with search volume, but the intent to me was super important.
Right.
And it was not something that I could necessarily scale. And let me explain to you why.
Mm-hmm.
This specific client had produced about 10 years worth of content in like 2 years. And it was always the same thing. Beginning of the winter season, the Instagram outfit of the day types of looks, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And they would repeat that trope like twice before the season, twice during the season, twice at the end of the season. So you end up with it's not duplicate content. I mean, at that point, I wish it was just sad content.
Right.
Like,
right. Yeah.
And I was like, you never scale this again. Okay. You don't, please.
I love the idea of going to Pinterest. I often forget about that. It's so huge, but it's barely talked about like as much as all the other platforms. That ties nicely into something I want to chat about as well, image SEO, Pinterest being so visual. I want to maybe break it into technical, but maybe even the creative or strategic side of it, image SEO as well. But let's start technical. One thing you mentioned prior to us chatting in the email was something about how, like, I wanted to just go right into this detail. So you said PageSpeed Insights will tell you didn't compress your images, even if you did. I see this all the time. That's always baffled me as well. So apparently you have a reason for this.
So I do have a reason, and I also do have a reason why I'm an image SEO nerd. So as you said, I share about a lot of things because I've been around for a while and I get bored.
Yeah.
So I always have to learn new things. Otherwise, I don't want to lose my love of what I do, because then that's the end of my career. So I always find new ways to dive in. And this little tidbit. So Google PageSpeed Insight is basically running a checklist on whatever you're testing, going pass, not pass, go.
Yeah.
And image compression is a lot more than this. So Google has their own compression algorithms.
Mm-hmm.
So there is one that I really like, Graceful. It means cookie in Swiss German. And it's amazing for JPEGs. Like, it does amazing things.
Yeah.
But what if you don't use it? What if you mainly have, I don't know, like PNGs, for example? Let's just throw out hypotheticals.
Yeah.
So if you're using a different compression algorithm, how is it going to be found by PageSpeed? It's blindly checking yes, no. So very often it will tell you that you compressed your images. No, you didn't compress your images. So you go to recompress them. You make them utterly crappy to see because the naked eye catches the degradation and goes, ew, gross.
Yeah.
And you're like, but Google, why do you punish me so? It's just because it's blind,
so
quote unquote.
Is PageSpeed Insights actually looking at the encoding of the image to determine, right? I always thought it was just looking at like file size, and it's going, oh, your file size is too big, you should compress your image. But it's actually looking for a sign that the image has been compressed.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And I would actually need to dig into this to give you a proper answer at a later date. The reason why I know this, and it needs to be put into context, and it's a good parallel, like SEO is fun,
Yeah.
but you can tear your hair out. Like right now, I'm feeling like I should know this answer and I feel bad. But the truth is, it's not my job.
Well, I don't know
Like,
it either. I mean, clearly.
Yeah. And I learned about this because I worked with Imagify, which is a compression plugin.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, what are the SEO advantages of selling something that is invisible? Like, this is pretty hard to do. So let's talk about the stuff that frustrates me as an SEO.
Yeah.
And that's how I learned about this. And I was like, hey, this is what we need to talk about. This is an asset for us. We can actually say this. We can explain that we have compressed this many images and that the web keeps getting bigger, which is true. Like recently, something was published about pages not loading faster, and we keep getting better. It keeps getting slower or just stays as slow.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are reasons.
It's like there's so many things in PageSpeed Insights that I just literally take the statement from the thing, like, not inline, but remove render blocking resources, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know what that is. I can explain that, but I'm basically like, that's the extent to what I'm going to understand about this. Here, developer, go ahead and do that, right? You know what to do. And
this is a very important thing I want to rant about. So I worked in development centers for years.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you bring that to a developer, they will look at you and go, well, you have to provide me more information, which is usually code for I can't be bothered, but also I have no clue what you're putting on my plate. Go. And I figured this out, like there was a render blocking issue recently, and I actually dug into it, and I ended up on this minified piece of code. And I looked at the person, I'm like, this is coming from this.
Mm-hmm.
What is that package? Where is it coming from? And also it's minified, so I can't tell you what it's about.
Right.
And that's when the developer just kind of broke down and went, we have no clue. Like, we've tried to figure this out for you. Like, oh, so you were trying to like pass the buck to me. That's not gonna fly, buddy.
Yeah. I think it comes with like doing SEO long enough, especially technical SEO, and working, I'm a consultant, so I've worked with hundreds of developers at this point. You come to know what a competent developer should know, right? So what I tell a client is, if you have a competent developer, if I tell them remove render blocking resources or minify CSS or whatever, they should know what that means, right? Clean up JavaScript. They should not have really further questions for me about that.
I have a really unusual anecdote for you.
Okay.
And I think it will tie into the whole, like, I love technical SEO, but I always need to know why we're doing it. Because to me, SEO is, the good metaphor for it is that the sum is big, like the total thing that we're looking at, it's bigger than the sum of the parts that make up SEO. So SEO as a whole is more than just technical SEO plus content plus promotion. It's something bigger once you mix all of this together.
Yeah.
So I did meet a developer because I used to do, I was very uncomfortable in the SEO world for very good reasons. And when I moved to Quebec, I decided instead to go to developer conferences. And I decided to talk about things to people who could make a difference in my day-to-day. I decided to learn from them. And I made a friend 8 or 9 years ago at a developer conference. And he did not care about SEO at all, but he knew a lot about JavaScript. So we became friends. He's the friend who told me, oh, so you are available for mandates. I showed up in Zurich to hang out with him, go to a conference. I met his boss, and I ended up with my first SEO gig, like as a freelancer.
Oh, wow.
And this person was super interested. All of a sudden, like, it made sense to him how JavaScript was hampering my efforts. And he understood, and he was like, what if I fix this? What if I fix that? Like, a very curious mind.
Yeah.
And fast forward a few more years, and he's the person who brought me back in the SEO industry.
Oh, cool.
So my friend Martin was basically catapulted into a situation where he's now explaining to developers how JavaScript and SEO works as part of the Google Search Liaison team.
Yeah.
So
Do you mean Martin Split?
Yep.
Oh, Oh, no, you were talking about Martin Split. He's been on the podcast too. He's amazing. I love him. Yeah.
So you understand the vibe and you understand what I'm describing when we say a good developer who's curious.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. He's been more helpful to me than for technical stuff. He showed me a way to test for if Google renders JavaScript, that I use to this day, right? Inspector, network conditions, Googlebot smartphone, refresh, view page source. I'm like, and I get to tell clients somebody from Google told me to do it this way, right? So they're like totally confident, like, oh, this must be the right way to test this. As far as images, one other thing in your notes about technical stuff, why should people know what graceful degradation is? Like, what is that?
Oh my goodness. Yes. So I like to dive into this because my apologies that my microphone decided to commit suicide. Okay, so I'm hoping it will stay. The reason why graceful degradation is super important is that we all think that image compression is this eternal thing we can pull off. No, we can't. Right. So an image is basically a bunch of pixels together, a lot of visual information. Mm-hmm. Now, our naked eye cannot perceive all of that information that is captured by a photographic lens. Like a camera captures a lot more than we're able to process with our hardware, our eyes.
Right.
So whenever you are going for any type of compression or trying to make that image lighter, like just not take up as much space, you are going to remove information from it, pixel by pixel. Okay?
Yeah.
So this lossy type of compression, because it's not lossless, you're losing something. That's why it's called lossy. Mm-hmm. It happens, and there is a threshold where your eyes will notice. Yeah. And you can't pinpoint exactly what's wrong. It's just that the image feels yucky.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
And you do need to reach a good balance between image is not too heavy and image is still high quality. And that depends on your situation. So if most of your visitors are mobile, you're a little less sensitive than a photographer who's used to being seen in like a giant 4K screen.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah.
So this is the portion that people don't understand.
Yeah. So how do you recommend that people optimize for their images? So I always recommend try to get 200 kilobytes or less, like file size. Do you have certain parameters that you try to get people to shoot for? I know you said it depends upon the situation, but like maybe let's address like most situations. Is there a good optimization parameter?
So I'm going to talk about it not necessarily from absolute point of view, but if you're working with developers or if you're trying to do it on your own, here's what you should try. Here's what you should know. Mm-hmm. First of all, many, many times you will end up with a CMS that will let you upload a huge image. Yeah. And everyone thinks it's someone else's job to actually resize this properly.
Yeah.
So focus on that portion first and foremost. Make sure that the CMS is not loading the image full size and then resizing it, for example.
Yep.
Make sure the designers know that they need to save, not for like museum, giant exhibit, but more web.
Yeah.
Once you do this, you also need to explore something, and most people don't do this. Mm-hmm. You can use multiple algorithms. You can layer them one over the other to achieve proper compression.
Really?
So yes, so I have this discussion very often with developers where I'm like, hey, we have a lot of JPEGs, and they're like, yeah, we already optimized. I'm like, can you like, there's an API, like go with Graceful, can you try and show me the results?
Yeah.
Show me how good it is.
Yeah.
Like figure this out. So that mix, that layering is something most people don't do. That's why I would start with, instead of focusing on how small can it be, focus on how can we maintain optimal quality and still get a payoff.
Is that layering something that you can do in like WordPress, and like, is that in theory something on any platform? Okay.
So this is absolutely something that I've seen done on WordPress. Have I seen it done by somebody who knows how to add a few plugins and that's it? No, it's via developers. I'm not going to lie here.
Yeah.
So that's one element that's important. The next thing that I want to talk about as well, that we don't talk about much, is the new image formats that already onboard compression, or they're supposed to, remember?
Yeah.
So you you have certain plugins, for example, Short Pixel and Imagify will have WebPs. They will offer them and have a fallback. So that is also something that you can consider going, okay, what are we doing with this image? How can we think about this?
So
you also, yes?
Is that where the next gen formats come into play? You see that also in PageSpeed Insights. I always like kind of push that aside in my mind because I'm like, is that really doing anything? Is that what you're referring to, the next gen formats?
Yes.
Okay.
So the problem is that, not all browsers catch up at the same speed.
Yeah.
So you end up with a situation of going, do we even go for this? Can we cover it, etc.? So what I would recommend is simply hedging your bets. It's one little like checkbox. Well, we all know that if the checkbox goes wrong, that there's a different story. But normally in Short Pixel or Imagify, it's one checkbox to say, hey, I'd like to activate WebP, the end.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't cost us much.
That's easy. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's quite a few different formats that are used. And there's always a few things like when we talk about image SEO, like there's some guidelines and you will run into certain things where your CMS doesn't accept, for example, native like WebP if you upload them. So that can be a problem. But I'd like to come back to what you had asked me. I know that people are going to want specific guidelines. So thumbnails, for example, 70 kilobytes.
70.
Yes.
Okay.
And if your images, well, like 2 to 5 megabytes, it's more than that. Like you're like,
yeah.
And if you have an image in general that is larger than 500 kilobytes, it should be compressed.
Yeah.
Like ideally, I aim for 100 kilobytes, but like you said, 200 is also a thing. It's just these are the guidelines that a lot of people ask me about. So I do give them. I'm just a bit reluctant because there's, yeah.
What do you think about like Tiny PNG? It's a free desktop website. You can drag and drop 20 images in there, compresses it for free, that kind of thing. What do you think about those sort of free compression tools?
I do like them. The problem about these free compression tools is once again the psychology. So if you think to do it, great, you're going to do it. And then the next time you have to upload something and you're like on a deadline, you're not going to go there.
Right.
You're
so it's a process issue.
Yes. That's why I recommend having at the bare minimum a plugin that takes care of this on your CMS. Right. And if not a plugin, use the API and like hook up your own thing, but make sure there's an automated part, because if you're expecting humans to remember all the time, forget it.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Let's quickly talk about the creative side of images. You had a funny tweet that I really liked where you shared a screenshot from an email campaign about paying bills, but it was some lady smiling with a thumbs up. And that also segues into like the bad overuse of stock photos, in my opinion, as well on a lot of websites. So what do you think, like in terms of image SEO, using images creatively, like what are your thoughts for companies or sites like approaching good imagery on their sites?
So I have a lot to say about this. I have a rule. It's a very important one for me. Back in the day, I was working on optimizing a pharmacy website, and we discovered that the competing pharmacy chain was using the same stock photo source as us.
Oh.
Yeah, and they were using the same images in their newsletters on the same weeks. No bueno.
Really? Were they copying, or that was a coincidence, or like what?
I will never know, because these images were also terrible. So let me segue into that.
Yeah.
I got incredibly pissed off because I was working with a colleague of mine who was focused on analytics, purely analytics. And I'm like, Raphael, we have to talk. I am fed up seeing boobs from week to week to week. Yeah. Like, there's no excuse for this many boobs in a newsletter. And he's like, don't blame me. And I'm like, clearly you found a way. Even if we're talking about like anything not related to boobs, you will fit boobs in there. He's like, I know, but the click-through rate works. Like, I can show you the stats. I don't have a choice. It has to be boobs. I'm like, we need to do better. Like, I'm sorry. Don't fall back on this. And what kind of business?
This was the pharmacy? Or
yes.
Really? And that's kind of like people saying pop-ups work. And it's like, well, what kind of quality of lead are you getting? Like, what's the long-lasting brand impression that you're getting from that sort of imagery?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have another one that was pretty interesting to me. I worked with a TV personality, like he's known throughout the world, but if you don't fish, you don't know him.
Okay.
So he's this person who goes to fish exotic, beasts and in local ones too. And his catches are also called like pixabay002.jpg. So I was like, the minimum you could do is at least rename your stock photos because you're supposed to be authentic.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So if we take all of this into consideration, image SEO is more than technical, but you also have to understand how humans function and how image vision functions. So there's a hierarchy of like 7 things that a machine will look into, just like a human being.
Yep.
The first thing we look into is faces. That's why in Google Vision API, when you test it, it's trying first and foremost, as soon as it sees a face, to guess the emotions on the face.
Yeah.
So that's where we get directional cues of like people looking to the left, to the text, because we have a tendency to follow the eyes that we see.
Yeah.
And once that's done, it will move into like animals, plants, objects, what is written on a shirt or on a poster, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how it's mimicking what humans are looking for. So when you look at an image and you're like, I want to rank first, or, like that type of reflex as an SEO.
Yeah.
I explored that during the pandemic because we all were triggered by lots of things. People were making sourdough bread. I was fighting the good image SEO fight.
Yeah.
I was fed up with marketers. So whenever we're talking about data stuff, a man in a suit pointing at an imaginary white or black board.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. That's it. So I decided to do a bit better. And I ran a few tests on Unsplash. And to this date, I have close to 250,000 downloads of my images.
Oh, wow.
And mind you, I don't have this many images. And I can bet that if you search on Unsplash for my name, you will see my images and go, oh, I've seen those.
Huh. So you're saying you took your own photos and then uploaded those to an Unsplash account.
And data scientists and marketers are using my images and quoting me.
Oh, wow. Oh, that you provided me with like the perfect segue, because that has to do a little bit with link building too, because you can link build with images. I have to talk about our sponsor, Stacker Studio. They, Amanda Milligan, who works for Stacker now, when she reached out, I was like, yeah, anything she's involved with, bring it on. Like, absolutely want to talk about this. So she used to work with Fractal and ran their podcast. Great episodes, really good guests. But Stacker is sort of like what they'll do for you is they will create really high quality, well-researched content, often with image assets or statistics and things like that. You get to publish that on your site. Then it gets published on Stacker. Then it gets pushed out and syndicated to a guaranteed 50 minimum publications, including San Francisco Gate, Houston Chronicle, MSN, Daily News, like really high profile, high visibility sites. You get links from that, visibility from that, referrals from that. You can use those publications like logos on your website for social proof. It's a really amazing platform. Even like Olga, who's my first guest, she's like, I want to use that for my clients because it does sound really cool. So if you go to studio.stacker.com/wire, you'll get 20% off the first piece of content. That's studio.stacker.com/wire. Yes.
I love this idea. It's because there's so many things that can go wrong whenever you're trying to do this.
Yeah.
The writers are not necessarily informed by the design, what the image is going to be. There's a fractured type of approach, and you can feel it as a reader. So this being handled like that sounds amazing. Yeah,
it really is. Like, I really put them through the ringer when she wanted to sponsor, because I'm like, I'm not going to take a sponsor where I don't actually like believe in the value of what you're doing. So I had her send me like example after example after example. I looked at the content, looked at the placements that content received, and it really checked out in my they do everything right with like canonicals. Like, there's nothing at all unsafe about it from a link perspective. In fact, it's probably on the other end of that. It's probably like very safe. I don't want to say cautious. You still get a lot of value out of it, but it's like definitely nothing that it's all brand text and website domain names for the anchor text. There's no like weird, keyword stuffing and stuff like that happening. So you're safe from Penguin with that.
if I go back to the Unsplash thing, there's also another element that is super important when we talk about our assets, like when we think about the content that we produce, is that there's this paradox of whether it be written or visual, where you're supposed to fit the mold and do what everyone else does. But if you do that, you don't stand out. You don't differentiate yourself. And there's, just like for image optimization, like compression, you have to figure out, when is it time for me to follow everyone, or where do I see a gap in the market? And that's what happened with the images I made. I was like, okay, I'm genuinely fed up with this. What do people want? And we figured out by testing multiple images that it's not one hand on the laptop, it's two hands. And it's not a desktop, it's a laptop. And there's always a coffee mug, or we tested like a plant pot, but the plant pot had the shape of the coffee mug, so that worked as well. But without that coffee mug, that was also an issue. Like we tested one hand, coffee mug, no coffee mug. The screen tilted a little bit, the screen in front. Like, I know what works, and I can tell that machines are basically going, okay, most human beings are imagining that this is the illustration we should have, and you just try to do it better.
I think this really ties into, I work on a lot of content with clients, like blog posts, articles, content marketing. One thing I urge them to do is actually have images that represent the topic of their post, right? So I worked with Wheels for Wishes for quite a while, the car donations benefiting kids and stuff like that. So we always try to work in really great photos of cars and children, often together, like in their posts. And I think that's often overlooked when it comes to SEO. On the flip side of that, I had a client that did a totally innocuous piece of content, but they had an image of a gun, not in a bad way, but it was a silver bullet. It was a metaphor for a silver bullet for something. And I'm like, you should take that out, because I think Google Safe Search, like that's probably going to get flagged, or like there's going to be certain things that Google's not going to want to show.
And that is something that you can see in the Vision API when you test it.
Really?
It's absolutely able to tell if this content is a spoof, is pornographic in nature, is racy. Like they have a scale on this. And what I find absolutely amazing is, so I have a dog. And most dog owners will at some point acquire what is called a Kong toy.
And I have one.
Okay, so you know what it is, but most people who do not have dogs, I had a black one and I had a pale pink one. And I took a picture of it for my dog blog, and I asked half a dozen friends, and it came out that humans were like, this looks like a sex toy. And Google was like, no, I know better. I know it's not. Like we tested. When I said I was an SEO, image SEO nerd, I meant it. Like we tested machines with humans.
So how do people, you mentioned using the image API or something. How do people go do what you did? I've never even done this. So how would you go about doing that?
So you would go to Google and you Google Vision API demo.
Okay.
And you upload the image and you will have.
Oh, it's just, you don't need to, it's just right there. You don't need to code or anything. Like just upload it. Oh, wow. Oh, that's cool. I'm going to like do that immediately after this episode.
I hope so. I hope so.
That reminds me that I still love doing the natural language tester, the free little widget in the natural language API. Like a lot of people, I did a video on that a few years ago, and a lot of people criticized me for like, you're doing it wrong. I'm like, it's still fun to throw text in there and analyze what Google is telling you about your content. I don't see the problem with that, but anyways.
Well, people love to argue, and whenever you have a lack of transparency of realizing why certain things happen, of course you're going to have gurus, ninjas, and whatever else telling you they know better.
Right. Yeah. It's par for the course. So I want to chat about a tweet where you said eat as a concept. I'd love to dig into what you mean by that. I have talked a lot about, I do not hold the opinion that the popular world of SEOs hold about EAT being ranked, like all that stuff. But what's your viewpoint on EAT? How does it fit in? What does it mean?
I don't know. Sorry. Whenever my brain takes a break, I switch to my native tongue. So you had a little bit of French in there, but so I'm full of opinions on this because, like I said, I used to be a librarian.
Yeah.
So I know what good content looks like. I also know which authors there's a famous French sociological sociology professor, but also an author. And he was like, let me be honest, we get paid on the amount of words we produce. So if you want to read my books, read the first sentence of each chapter and the last one, and you should be good.
Oh, wow.
And once you figure out, because you can tell I'm more of a tester, I did this in university as well. So once I figured this out, I applied it to my teachers, and I always made sure my intros were solid and my conclusions were solid. In the middle could be fluff. I knew they were not reading it, and I proved that.
Oh, wow. That's hilarious. It's pretty clever too, though. Yeah.
And that's why I was primed for SEO. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, and I knew what I could get away with.
Yeah.
But today, it's a bit complicated. So for me, it's a concept that you have to explain to people because they're too busy trying to SEO cheat their way through. They're not trying they're trying to game the system, basically. That's it.
Yeah.
And there's good ways to do that. There's bad ways, because I also have a problem with working the system and gaming the system. Working is positive, but gaming is negative. No. That's not how it works. So I had to recently explain to a client of mine, hang on, you're going to love this.
Okay.
YMYL, because they teach avalanche courses, how to survive an avalanche.
Oh, wow. That is cool.
And they also were very confused as to why their winter hut business on the same website was not taking off. So you have to explain to them, listen, you are in charge of making sure people survive, and that comes with like a standard.
Yeah. And
then you're offering like Airbnb type of dream. Like, we need to talk.
That is so
I would
funny.
advise you. Yeah. So what would be your opinion on this? If you're faced with something like this, what do you say?
What do I say to them? Split that up. I mean, they're two conflicting things, right? It's you're just not going to be able to have your cake and eat it too kind of situation, right? Like, break that up into two businesses, two websites, have them be separate. That's probably the way you have to go.
And for me, this was exactly this. But how do you explain to a business owner, you're going to have to take on the cost of two websites?
Yeah.
You're going to have to actually slug through and create that secondary website.
Yeah. So
this is where I'm mightily irritated by the whole, like, we have to follow EAT blindly, and it says this and it says that. No. For me, it's a concept. So let me apply this concept outside of Avalanche training.
Yeah.
If a product doesn't have an add to cart button, and doesn't have a price, is it a transactional page?
In Google's eyes, probably not.
No, it's not. Absolutely. So this is where this is a concept that you have to go, okay, so how does that relate to me? Well, as a technical SEO, I have to make sure that this information gets rendered. Otherwise, we're not even talking about anything else.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a question I probably know the answer to, but do you believe EAT is a ranking factor?
I'm in the middle. Let me explain why.
Okay.
This is my point of view. For a machine to learn, it needs a corpus, but it also needs regular feedback, because we know that the original corpus is biased. Otherwise, we end up with problems. And it will catch maybe, let's say, hypothetically, 80% of the stuff that is bad and penalize, well, let's not use that heavy word, but just frown upon 20% of the content that is actually good. Yeah. And you don't know why. So to correct this, you have to have human input. But at some point, I do believe that these humans are giving proper input until the machine can pedal on its own. So a clear example, because I got into a Twitter fight, obviously we all do. I have French SEOs who are technical folks, and they're like, listen, when you have an e-commerce website, you need to obfuscate with JavaScript your footer links. And I'm like, wait, so if we go back to like those quality rater guidelines, you're telling me that humans are told by Google, you need to check customer service links. They're usually in the footer, do this, do that, like find it. Okay. You're telling me that you feel smart because this doesn't impact humans. I'm an accessibility advocate, so obviously this was not going to go well. But I went, so you're telling me that as long as the humans who test this are not disabled, you're fine. But hey, what happens if Google actually goes, you know what? We have found a way to test if this information is on the website at scale without humans. Your obfuscation is going to become a problem. It's not future proof.
Right. Yeah. I guess the issue I have with EAT is that, so first of all, I have worked on hundreds of websites, ranked thousands of pieces of content, grown traffic, and have spent 0 seconds ever thinking about EAT. Ever. And my take on it is that you can't throw EAT onto a page that has the wrong intent matching to the query you're trying to rank for example.
Absolutely.
Right? You can't throw EAT on, you talked about is a page without a buy now button transactional. One thing I see a lot too is pages that are trying to rank in the wrong spot of the funnel, right? So you can't throw EAT on a page that's hitting the wrong search intent on that transactional to informational spectrum either. So
I'm going to maybe provide a missing piece in that conversation. I have to talk to you about mommy blogs, and then we'll talk about DeWalt batteries.
Okay.
So I worked with a mommy blog, and we had to stop collaborating because they were churning out better content, but they had 13 years of running after the algorithm and creating doorway pages where you have to click 5 times to actually get to the information.
Yeah.
And since it was a mommy blog, it also welcomed a lot of testimonials that were passing off as blog posts. So you would have this blog had 2,500 articles on C-sections.
Oh my goodness.
Let me tell you, we want one good medically supported article. We don't need this 2,500 ladies who had like that one shot at C-section. No, we want a doctor explaining this. So explaining this basic concept was not getting through to them. They're like, no, because if we do this and if we reduce the amount of pages and if we start cleaning up stuff, we are not going to get our revenue from advertising. So they kept churning more and more crap. And complaining that it kept going down and down and down and down. That was horrible. But now let's talk about the DeWalt battery. So I sent you a link in the chat and I want you to open it.
Okay. Should I describe to the listeners what I'm looking at when I open the link?
Oh, and describe all the EAT milestones that you see.
So it's called poweringautos.com, and the title of this post is How Long Should a DeWalt 20-volt battery last? I'm seeing at the top it says as an Amazon. Oh, what is that? Okay. So last updated, I'm seeing an author name. I can click that author name. There's credentials that he is experienced in mechanical engineering. It goes to an About Us page. I'm seeing,
You have to be experienced in mechanical engineering to tell people how long a DeWalt battery should last.
Oh, yeah.
Now I need you to Control F and go to search for accident.
Accident. Okay. So it has been 3 years since the years. Okay. So what am I looking for here? I see accident 5 times in this post.
You started reading it and tell me how that fits with the DeWalt battery.
What is the lifespan? Yeah, I remember the accident. What are they talking about? Has been 12 hour. Okay. Where's that coming from? Is that just injected in this page? That's so strange. That's totally random. Like, what is going on here? Is this AI written content? What is happening?
I do not know. And this has been a mystery that I laugh with a lot of friends because I send this along and I'm like, do you see this? And they're like, oh, this is a horribly optimized. And they are trying to like eat all the things. And I'm like, please go on, pass your disgust, pass your SEO judgment and find the part where there is someone talking about losing a leg 3 years ago in the middle of how long should a DeWalt battery FAQ?
Yeah, like why is that? Does this page rank? Is that part of the example? Is this get traffic or something?
I haven't even checked. It was just such a gift because this was sent to me by a developer going, SEO has gone too far.
Yeah, no, totally. I have a story that I love to tell. So I had a client I've worked with on and off for the last like 16 months. They sell beef jerky. So we started from zero with a blog talking about nutrition, diets, different, snack options, food and stuff like that. They grew their traffic like 100x. Like, it was amazing. One of the best growths I've ever seen. They had 3 authors. One of them left the company. Mm-hmm. When he left the company, they removed his name from all of his blog posts, which were, you're cringing, but here's the thing. They didn't lose a single ounce of traffic. And this is my thing when it goes back to EAT, right? Is I believe that Google is so good at knowing by looking at the content itself, if it was written by an expert, they don't need an author name. Like, I can throw any credential label on a piece of content. And I have another site that I work with, brand new, launched in March. It's all child psychology, behavioral stuff, ADHD, everything like that, medical, right? They don't even have author profile pages on their site at all. But we focus entirely all on the content itself, good structure, good topical completeness, good sentiment, like all that, right? Written for the web, like, and it ranks, it's been growing and growing like crazy. It just jumped up in the last core update too.
I agree with you, but I'm always trying to figure out why these things are. So, for example, for me, I had a hobby website quite a few years ago. Don't ask. I always do weird things that make me happy. Okay. So I had one where genuinely being an author on that website was a problem because I wasn't seen as an expert in that field. I'm just a hobbyist and I don't have any trace on the internet of having any other interest apart from this site tied to this.
Yeah.
So in that case, it was a bit difficult because once again, this was a topic that would be covered by YMYL, medical type of stuff, but it's not medical, but it's like, whenever you want to talk about, hey, Quebec has this wonderful mushroom that exists only in 3 places in the world and like weird moment. I like dinosaurs. I like mushrooms. I like a lot of weird stuff. And so I saw that this had an impact. However, as a dog blog owner, I started a dog blog one very questionable birthday party later. And I speak about breeds that I don't have, but I'm really passionate about the history and why they're the way they are, etc. And we rank super, super well.
Yeah.
Because it's solving problems that nobody else solves. And here's why good content works. In a sea of content that is a copy of a copy of a copy, and we can get philosophical here because there is a French philosopher famous for predicting what we are currently going through. Baudrillard was famous about like the copy of the copy. Like, we're living in hyper reality. Yeah. We're no longer anchored into the truth. Yeah. We're anchored into a meme of a meme of a meme of the truth.
Yeah.
So if you don't get the references, good luck.
Yeah.
And this is the crappy content we deal with, Dan.
Right.
Like, this is it. You read the stuff and you're like, clearly that person has never had a dog, or clearly that person does not care about dogs.
Yeah.
So yes, good content, period, should be a thing. And EAT is just it's not a sad reminder, but it is a must. It is what happens when quality gets scaled. When you need to check for quality at scale, you have to explain the most basic stuff to make sure everyone has the same baseline. Is that enough? No. Does that guarantee good content? No. It's the content equivalent of PageSpeed Insights.
Right. Well, because I think that's what people want to look for. They want to look for what's the thing I can apply to every single page, rather than every time I've ever analyzed a core update, you go into Search Console, you segment. I can always isolate without fail specific queries or pages that dropped and others that gained. It's never site-wide, ever. And to me, that's why core updates are not a penalty. They're not the old days of Penguin or Panda. And I think EAT really fails to get at that sort of diagnostic. Right. One thing I see a lot is that you can take a single piece of content, and one thing Google will do is it'll sever off half the keywords that it figured out were not relevant to that page anymore, but actually maintain or even increase the other half. So it's sort of that machine learning or whatever it is like Google sort of being very, very particular.
And to me, once again, when I interpret this, since Google is not investing in indexing all the things, the index has reduced. It costs money to crawl stuff.
Yeah.
So now we don't want the copy of the copy. This is useless. This is a waste of money for that company, but it's also hurting their bottom line because people complain. Like I've seen some stuff on Reddit where people go, oh, so people still Google stuff. And I think they have chosen to invest in a very, very smart point of view. They're going by entities.
Yeah.
So they're trying to figure out core concepts and figure out if your content relates to that concept, how, and does it deserve to be indexed and ranked? Yeah. So with an author, it's the same thing. An author has an entity. So depending on who the author is and what their print on the web is, like their footprint, there is a human element that we are trying to mimic here. So for example, you told me that you're having me on this podcast because if X person recommends a specialist, here you are, you trust them.
Yeah.
This is something that Google is trying to replicate. This is also what is tied to link building. This is that version. We keep trying to please a bot that is trying to mimic us to please us.
Yeah.
This is weird. Can we just like cut the middleman and like understand that EAT as a concept is something that is used internally by the company to make sure that their workers can do the most basic stuff,
right,
to provide feedback to the machine. Our job is not to have that baseline. Our job is to go way beyond and like above all of this.
Yeah. I agree entirely about that. I do want to talk about algorithmic biases as well. I think that's a fairly good segue into that. You were mentioning how they impact specifically women and Latin languages, underrepresented communities and people, all that kind of stuff. And I'd love your take on that. I first want to know, like, why does this happen? And then, talk to me about your thoughts on it in general, what you experience, and then how could we make this better? So maybe cover all the bases there.
Yes. So what matters to me is that there is always a wide gap between what Google says and what happens in real life, in practice, in the trenches. And Google has been very clear on the fact that they are trying to really match what we as a society deem to be important.
Yeah.
So with 15% new queries each day, they are doing a great job. However, it's very difficult to fight bias when it's already baked into the way we interact with one another. The machine is also learning some bad stuff from us.
From us, yeah.
And this can be a bit fun when I explain it, in the sense that if you look for Swiss Army in Switzerland, you will have a lot of watches.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a brand first and foremost before being the entity like the Swiss Army. It's known to be a neutral country. So obviously this is a good joke. Great. But to me, as a freelancer, I always had to call myself a specialist. And if we're talking about a hierarchy of search volume, an expert, an SEO expert is what most humans will look for. Then there is a specialist. And in French, if you are an expert but happen to be a woman, you are une experte. There's an extra E at the end. And let me tell you, between specialist and expert is like bottom line, almost flat line. Nobody looks for this. Okay? So I chose to go with an epicene term. An epicene term, if you say I'm a specialist, it's gender neutral. That's it. It could be a man or it could be a woman. So this was my patriarchal compromise as a freelancer trying to make it in. I knew that I could not compete on what would be the thing people look for to describe me, because that's a masculine word and I do not fit that mold. And so if I were to cheat, you don't hire me because I can't write.
And do you mean you're trying to find the right keyword essentially and label for yourself as a professional? Was this for like trying to rank in Google, for social media? Like what context were you trying to arrive at the right description?
I wish I could tell you it's only keywords, but it's not. I know that there are some moments even now where there are some clients where I have to grab my partner who is a man, set him in front of the document that I'm expecting him to read. He knows nothing about the client. He knows nothing about the problems. He just rattles off that list
Yeah.
Because developers trust him more.
So this is, that's the human bias, but this shows up like if you search for, if I go to Google, probably, I haven't done this, but I'm willing to bet my left arm. If I go to Google and search SEO expert, it'll be all men probably that show up for that.
Let me explain how bad it gets. So the example I gave with my partner is the key reason why I chose to call myself specialist, because I could sign M, Jessier, and not Myriam. So you wouldn't know if I was a man or a woman. Yes, this is what I mean. And when I started freelancing, you can bet that I was looking at that search volume and being angry, but chose to make the best of it. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be a feminine expert if nobody looks for that. Right. I'm going to be the epicene specialist. It's not as glorious, but it is what it is. Now, here's the practice. If in Quebec, you were to look for a copywriter that is a woman, so specifically you like put the feminine rédactrice instead of rédacteur. Okay. Google will go, hey, remember how we qualify stuff by dominant, common, and niche? Yeah. So the top 3 results are probably going to be women. And after that, Google will go, but did you mean like the more common?
Oh, wow. They do that?
Yes. So they show you dudes.
So, and that's interesting because you're dealing with a language that has gender in terms of the different nouns. Yeah. That connection is interesting because we don't have that as much, right, in English, where that's present a lot more. And
you do. Let me explain to you why. So yes, my name is Myriam Jessier, but my mom is Hungarian. So magyarul beszélek. And Hungarian is a language that does not have pointlessly gendered stuff. Okay. So whenever you want to talk, you go, first of all, it's a bit weird because it's not individualistic. So if you're at the restaurant, you don't say, I thank you, like thank you to the waiter. You go, we thank you. So I always come across as the mean one because the French in my brain goes, I thank you. But on top of this, if you say like this person, they watch TV, they go for groceries, they watch the kids, they cook. It's always a then the verb. So would being they, like the person. Okay. Like this. And it's a very strange language because very often the gender will be out. I will just go, store, go you. And this means like, I'm going to the store. Do you want to come with me? That's the whole thing. So the reason why I tell you this is if you take a block of text that is just this person does this and like there's activities, you put it in Google Translate, Google will gender it.
Oh, right.
She's washing the dishes, she's watching the kids, but he's going to school and he's going to work.
Based upon the activity, right.
Yeah. So yes, English is much more flexible for me. I have a lot more fun with it because it's not as gendered as French. But is it still much more gendered than another language I speak? Yes.
Yeah.
So,
and I think this is interesting because we were talking about Google ranking content based upon, is it transactional or like, and I think Google analyzes content by a whole, like a lot of different ways. Another way being, is this content beginner level or advanced level? And they try to match that to the intent of the search query or the, so I could, as you're saying this, I'm almost envisioning, I wonder if there's search queries Google is interpreting as more a woman wants this or a man wants this. And then what if your content is written in one gender or the other? I almost think of that as like another sort of way language might tie into actually, Google ranking content.
Yes. And this is the part where I'm not quite sure. They do have specialists working on this, by the way, internally. And I'm not sure if they are learning from us directly or if they are learning from the corpus at their disposal. Let me explain why. In France, when women enter the workplace, men had a hard time. So to accommodate them, different job titles were created. What do I mean by different job titles? Well, a different way to describe the same job, the same responsibilities, but that would make men feel more comfortable, not as threatened by their counterparts. And with this, what we learned is that a certain specific title attached to, well, mostly women will take on that job, comes with lower pay. It comes with gendered expectations. Mm-hmm. So, for example, in English, you have this, a nurse. Whenever you look for a nurse, well, it's often a lady. When you look for a businesswoman, it will be a sassy, middle-aged, well, not too middle-aged, like maybe 30s, woman doing this with a suit on next to a laptop, not in front of the laptop, next to the laptop, like cosplaying, being successful. And these are the things that we are trying to unravel. And our responsibility lies halfway as SEOs, because human beings as a whole have to provide this feedback for the machine. I mean, if we can Google bomb stuff to this day, and Google pretends that we can't Google bomb things, obviously, we can make this change. We can signal to the machine that this changes. But the people who do choose to do so are fighting decades of information being fed into the machine that says otherwise, first. Second, they're risking less visibility, because I have this problem with a few clients who work, well, they're in different industries, but they're looking to hire people. If you use inclusive writing, well, are you going to rank as well? That depends. It's not always for the best. Whenever you're trying to make a job title in specific languages be gender neutral, maybe people search less for that gender neutral option. Or if you try to make it inclusive with the median point, nobody's really Googling for this. So it comes at a cost to be a pioneer and give that feedback.
So I want to chat a little bit about furniture design and SEO. You have a way where you're seeing the parallel between the process of the design process of a certain designer and SEO. I'd just love to hear about this, because like I'm trying to imagine what this connection might be, and I'm not coming up with anything. So what's your take on that?
This is the beauty of ADHD. So you will be trying to figure out a problem and your brain goes, but what about naked snowboarding for the Paralympics? Could that be a thing? And you're like, why are you doing this to me, brain? Why? And sometimes it leads to good things. Mm-hmm. So this is one of these. I love Ray and Charles Eames. I don't know if you've ever heard of these furniture designers.
I'm not.
This is the beauty of it. So you maybe have not heard of them, but you have seen their chairs. You have sat in their chairs. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't, you've sat in a knockoff of their chairs.
Yeah.
That's how iconic they are.
Okay.
So I always loved their furniture, and I could never quite put my finger on it. Why? And the reason why is that their process enabled them to have timeless pieces of furniture that people go back to, that people are willing to pay an arm and a leg to have an original of. But even the new versions that are put out, they were able to build iconic furniture that stands the test of time, mm-hmm. not only in design, not only in comfort, but really as a whole. Like these are the chairs people look to. Okay, this is the inspiration for generations and generations and generations. And here's why it works. They had an approach that was rather time consuming, but was very, very systematic. What they would do is break apart a piece of furniture or a concept down to its bare bones essentials, like the essential elements, getting back to the core. Mm-hmm. So you end up basically with a stack of Legos, if you would imagine this, and that's where they start. They don't look at the chair going, here's a chair, here's the seat of the chair, here are the legs. They would really look into every single piece, and they would take each piece and look how that piece ties with the next one. So they would focus on some parts of the furniture that we as customers would consider invisible. And this is a parallel with SEO. There are a lot of moving parts. And out of all of these parts, you have to figure out how this thing goes with this thing goes with that, and find the best combination. So each element becomes its own hypothesis to be tested to figure out how it ties into the whole. And by combining these basic elements together and figuring out the right fit, you come up with a brand new starting point, aka your vision, your concept of a chair may not be the same concept as someone who has been designing chairs the way they are supposed to be.
Right.
So you look really, how does the fastener underneath the chair tie to the wood panel? And what is the proper angle to make sure that this chair is not only long lasting, but comfortable to sit in, like getting all of it right. But all of it right, just like we were talking about image SEO, you know when that image has been degraded. Like, you know, you can't put your finger on it. Just like that chair or that sofa, you have two camps of people, the people who want a really nice sofa and the people who want a really comfortable one. It's hard to find that in between that satisfies everyone.
Right. I see the connection. So I like this. I want to make it, maybe pull it down to the concrete a little bit for some of the listeners, right? So when I'm thinking about something having to do, so maybe I'm planning content for a blog, right? Doing keyword research, planning out topics. How would we apply this process to that in SEO, or maybe something else in SEO that applies better in that scenario? Like, I'm trying to think through how can I, because I love the concept, how can I maybe try to apply that in my process of doing SEO work?
If I had to sum it up in something that could be close to actionable, if you choose the most promising combination of the elements that you have at your hand, and you choose that most promising combination, but of the most promising elements, you arrive at the bare minimum at a whole new starting point. So, for example, if we're talking about content, I have a content that I absolutely adore on my dog blog. And I love this dog blog because I signed so many NDAs that I can't talk about some things. I wish I could, but I can't. So we're going to talk about dogs. I have a very basic question when it comes to Huskies. Why are they such drama queens? And this is a brand new starting point, right? Because most people would figure out, why are they howling so much? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Why are they temperamental? But if we combine the whole, like, howling, having an attitude, being a husky all together, that dog is a drama queen. Like that, there's no other way to describe it. And I'm not the only one who has that point of view, because a lot of people on YouTube have compilations of huskies being drama queens. But nobody, when I got started, was willing to address that question, because that was a brand new starting point. You couldn't think about this. So if we apply this to B2B, for example, if we're considering how humans interact, where they are at in the funnel, etc., well, maybe the content that you need to create is a template, or maybe it's a checklist, or maybe it's the checklist that would enable them to actually evaluate your product versus other products. Instead of saying, what are the biggest benefits of our product, or what are the biggest benefits of this product in general? No, figure out what people want. Like, look at the individual parts, take the ones that have the most promise and combine them together. And that's the winning portion. That's how you can stand out from a copy of a copy of a copy of content.
One of my favorite types of videos is huskies singing into autotune. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, no, but thank you. I need this.
You need to go look it up. If I find a link, I'll send you a video, but it is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And then musicians will take that and create beats out of it and stuff.
And see, this is the illustration of that concept.
Right.
You're taking the most promising elements and building upon it.
I see what you're saying. Okay. So you're saying, like, here's husky. What's like the best part about a husky? Well, it's their like howling and everything like that. Okay. Let's take like audio. What's something cool in the audio world? It's this idea of auto-tune. Like, combine those together. Instantly you have this new thing. Yes, this is it. And it gets so good and so memorable at some point that people will take the concept and decline it to something else. So for me, when I do talk about furniture and SEO as a parallel, like, this is what it means. It means not copying what everyone does, but that doesn't mean going out blindly and being super creative, because that furniture design, it's incremental changes that help your ideas advance, right? So it's studying each bit. So
the parallel with SEO is intense for me because yes, what we do is incremental changes. Yes, all of us want to be viral on something, that's great, but we know it's hit or miss, whereas incremental work does pay off in our industry.
Yeah, one thing I've often said is I love cross-domain stuff. So like you take the idea of webinars that what are something that B2C companies can do from the B2B world? And like, what if you're an e-commerce store and you give a webinar, right? Like just as an example, it's that sort of like, let's draw from this one industry and apply it to the other. And then there's some, like how many e-commerce stores have given a webinar, for example?
And it's a fantastic idea. I know that it's not a webinar, but there's an e-commerce store for bikes that does something amazing where they will go on the trails and they will test the lights at night.
Yep.
And you can compare two lights, like in the conditions.
Oh, cool.
That is amazing.
Mm-hmm,
but yes, I agree with you. I will add a nuance though, because this is what was key to Eames' success as a brand.
Mm-hmm.
They never eroded the quality. So whatever they were adding on to, they were building to have something that is bigger than the sum of its parts. So you can't keep tacking stuff on because you feel like you need to, which all of us do in SEO.
Yeah. And
then you're like, oh, well, yeah, the quality was eroded, but we had to fit it in. Mm-hmm. Kind of like the 3 years ago, I lost my leg in the DeWalt battery thing. Yeah. Like, no, let's not do this.
Yeah, you don't want to end up with like a Frankenstein either.
No. And very often that's what homepages look like.
Right. Yeah. I almost tweeted the other day, like one of my big pet peeves is B2B websites that don't just say the noun of what they do. Like, are you B2B? Do you sell a product? You don't have the word product on your homepage? Like, what are we even doing here? But they have these like fluffy words having to do with, like reach your business goal, like stuff like that.
Usually, I have a rule whenever I work with, I'm friends with a UX researcher and designer that I love named Stephanie Walter. Mm-hmm. And Stephanie and I have this rule where if we get pitched a lot of stuff, whether it be for mandates or I have companies contacting me going, your content ranks really well, so we'll give you a free year of blah, 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 blah. And I go on the page and she gets those roughly 30 times a week. Okay,
oh, wow.
It's intense.
Yeah.
She's like famous with a big F, huh? Mm-hmm. And we have this rule where we scroll the page and we're like, if I can't figure out what you do amongst all the fluff, it's a no.
Right. Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. So the last thing I want to chat about with you is ADHD. So you're, I assume, officially diagnosed ADHD, everything like that. The surprise that I was going to mention was, I've always realized or recognized ADHD tendencies in myself. I think it's easy for somebody to go, oh, like, do I get distracted? I must have ADHD, right? Like there's that kind of stuff out there. But I start with a brand new doctor the other day and she's like, after a long conversation about like diet and work habits and how I started drinking caffeine again because it helps me focus and everything like that. She's like, have you ever been diagnosed with ADHD? I'm like, no. And she's like, well, I think maybe like this brain scan thing, you should do that or whatever. But I've always recognized certain tendencies in myself that I try to lean on to turn ADHD characteristics into strengths, right? That type of thing. But my favorite people to talk to, yourself included, after this great discussion, have ADHD diagnosed. Like one of my best friends forever, Mike from college, ADHD diagnosis, right? So I recognize that maybe there's like jumping topics, right? Like all that stuff's very interesting to me. Anyways, my question for you, I'd love to hear about is what is your experience like working in SEO and marketing with ADHD? What have been like your challenges and what are some ways that you've sort of dealt with those?
So first and foremost, yes, I was diagnosed quite a while back. And back then, the drugs they would peddle, I'm sorry for saying it this way, I looked at and I went, I don't want this to be my life. I actually do enjoy my personality and I don't want to be subdued. That's not to say that the drugs provided today don't help. I have a few friends who have been diagnosed in their mid-30s and the meds are really helping them.
Yeah.
However, in my case, I'm going to go on a tangent here, but when you have ADHD, it's really complicated to actually connect with the reality of most people. Like whenever I do get a break and my brain calms down, I'm like, so wait, this is what it's like to be able to focus on one thing at a time without being obsessed with it. Just like get it done. Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. And there's two phenotypes. So there's two big families of ADHD. The folks who will drink a liter of caffeine because it helps them focus, and that turned out to be my partner.
Yeah.
And the folks who basically lose their ever-loving mind if they do that, which is me.
Okay.
So if you make me drink like 3 Coca-Colas up until 4 a.m., I will circle the bed like I'm preparing for a shark attack and I'm the shark. And I will tell you about the downfall of the Roman Empire and how inflation was first discovered with them and how it's going to apply to us today. Yeah, that's my vibe.
Yeah.
So working in SEO was kind of a deliberate choice without me knowing it. Let me explain why.
Yeah.
I have this cute story of optimizing websites when I was like 10 years old, because the beginning of the internet and the beginning of the commercial internet that was available where I was, like in the late 90s, because this was a military project before that. Mm-hmm. And the truth is I realized this was a job and I glommed onto it because it ensured I would never get bored.
Yeah. 100% agree.
Important. And you will find a lot of people who have ADHD in our field because it's that exciting. It's like a dopamine machine.
Yeah.
It never stops. You always have a new rabbit hole to go down to, like just dig into. Mm-hmm. And that's what you said about my Twitter account. You're like, you talk about a wide range of topics.
Yeah.
Yes, because after 15 years, I can't tell you how many rabbit holes I've been plunging into.
Yeah.
And when you meet someone who has the same brain wavelength where you can go, and there's this, and there's that, and there's that, and it ties to this and that, and that, it feels like you met your other match. Like there's an animated GIF that I love, which is the one little man on the wall with the pictures and tying it with red yarn everywhere. This feels like you found someone else to do this with.
Right.
But it's SEO stuff.
Right.
And agency side, I suffered a lot. Working on my own, quote unquote, with my partner as well, like has been a game changer for me, because filling out a timesheet is purgatory for me.
Yeah, I agree.
I can't do that. And my productivity is in bursts. So I can literally knock out 3 training decks that are brand new in maybe 4 to 5 hours on a Saturday, if I don't get emails, if I don't get anything, because I'm hyper focused. It's just like laser, let's go. I'm vibing, woohoo.
Yeah.
But then when I'm expected to actually like deliver stuff on time, I have to have 50 alarms and I have anxiety. And of course, my brain is questioning, what if Harry Potter was a conspiracy theory? And then like writing a whole thesis in my head about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I can tell you that sometimes it leads to fun results. One late night, I wrote to a friend of mine. I'm like, I have this conspiracy theory that McDonald's is not a fast food, but a real estate company.
Yeah, that's actually true, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So these things are super fun when your brain comes up with something. You're like, oh my God, it's actually true.
That was the genius of McDonald's. Yeah. I relate to a lot of that. My workaround with the issue of getting things done when there's a deliverable is I learned a while ago everything I do for clients is based around a meeting. Every deliverable, everything. If clients don't want to work that way, I don't work with them. So I have weekly calls with every single client, and that hour leading up to the call is panic mode, where I'm like, high anxiety because I'm terrified of not having something for them.
Yes.
But if it's 2 days before, it's just not going to happen. And that's something that took me a very, very long time to learn. And talk to me about this too, because I feel like if you have that sort of brain, but you don't recognize it, I felt like a failure, quite honestly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Let me scream it even more. Yes. Sorry. It's just, I felt terrible, and I always felt like I wasn't good enough. And the more people like ask you questions, the deeper you go into it, and you're like, when can I stop? When can I tap out and say, hey, like I need to give my brain a rest, and you're supposed to handle that bit. I'm sorry, don't send me down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So just having boundaries is really hard to set when you work in SEO because you can go so many directions.
Right.
But on top of this, I changed a few things. So the way I function is I will have this process where I'm super anxious and I will like dive into stuff. So for example, the furniture analogy came to me because I was mandated. I had one of my clients who was like, you're going to explain to me how I'm supposed to design for SEO.
Huh. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't answer that. So I let my brain let loose. Yeah. I was in a spa and I would like grab the notebook and I just was scribbling all of this down.
Yeah.
And then I did my research. Huh. So I will have moments of like pure creativity that I have to harness and like put them somewhere and then pick them up like right before the deadline. But I also changed the way I do deliverables when I'm not teaching. So I have some clients where I go, hey, this may go above and beyond SEO, but give me like a blank check. I will come back to you with 30 minutes or an hour of me being recorded going through your website. This is your audit.
Yeah.
Or I'll have bits in my Google Slides, because my audits are Google Slides because I like pictures, etc., where I will record myself and go, I'm not explaining this to you in writing. It will take 10 slides. Here's a video. Like play it in.
I did stuff in writing years ago too when I figured that out. But let me ask you this. So you can prepare that video when when it's not scheduled for yourself? Like you can say, I'm going to give you this video by this date and then actually go ahead and do that.
I set the date, and depending how much my brain hates what I have to currently do, I may bang it out super fast. Okay. Or I may bang it out right before I'm supposed to deliver it.
Yeah. Because that's been my struggle is anytime that I have to have something done and deliver that, when there's no meeting attached, sometimes I can just power through if there's not too many of that kind of stuff going on. But most of the time I rely on those meetings because I know I'm going to jump on, the client's going to be there. And if I don't have anything for them, like that's going to look really bad for all of us.
So I tell them I will deliver the video by this date. Okay. And this is what helps me. But you also have to keep in mind, as I said, 70% of what I do now is training. Huh?
Right.
So I do have that meeting. Yeah. I don't have that choice. Yeah. I don't have that luxury. Even if the slides aren't done, I know that I need to rely on my brain to focus. So what I will usually do to save myself, and clients love this, is I will ask a list of the people attending and what they do. If they have different websites or different roles, I will add this into my deck. So it's always personalized.
Right. So when you're on your own now, because I always often think about if I were to ever work in-house, that would be torture, right? Same website, like all day long for like years, that would be complete, like, I would hate that. Now that you're on your own, do you have many, many different clients and projects that you jump around to?
Yes. So back when I was in agency side, I got an award because I was able to handle 69 clients in one quarter. Yeah. And like, we're not talking about like little things. Okay. We're talking about big projects. Yeah. And I was like, you're not supposed to manipulate and like leverage my neurodivergence this way. I'm going to burn out. And I did burn out.
Right. So you have to be careful too.
Yeah. But when I went client side, I went to the worst type of client side. I went to work for a bank. It was just everything felt like a cubicle, the humans included. Yeah. And I can't relate. And the way I would go about this, and it's the same way I go about SEO. Find whatever motivates you. Yeah. So what I mean by that is I started as a content person back when content was copy pasted from one website to the next and not penalized. Okay.
Right.
And I switched to technical SEO because I was fed up with people arguing about commas, no commas, removing all my keywords. Like this was not fun for me. Yeah. So I moved into the technical end where I got to go down many rabbit holes, but then you don't advance if you're like me, because most people will value you as an expert, but they don't think you would make a great manager because it's hard to hire your replacement. Not because you would be bad, just because it's hard. You're shoeboxed in. Yeah. So I swore to myself I would never get shoeboxed in. And that's why I go down so many rabbit holes. That's why I know so much about SEO as a whole, not each individual pillar or element or whatever, as a whole. And once you acquire that knowledge, you can break the curse of knowledge. You can, because you remember that pain. You've done it so many times and you interact with other people who don't know, you find a way to connect with them, to pass on that knowledge.
Yeah, I like that.
But if you have ADHD and you work in an environment that is highly, tightly controlled, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. And it doesn't, I can't work in an open space, for example. So I have a few tips, and we are a tribe of loopers. So we have loops. I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
Oh, no.
It's
loopers. Yeah.
So loops is basically kind of like the earbuds you would put in at concerts. They're made for concerts, actually.
Oh, okay.
And you can still hear people talk to you, but you don't have to hear the really annoying pen tapping that makes you lose your mind and thought, etc. Like, you can survive. So there's a few things. Another element I would recommend is having flow playlists. So if you don't have them, you can go on Spotify and someone else will have made a flow playlist. These are songs where, I don't know how to explain it, it automatically kickstarts your ADHD flow.
So I'm a musician. Yeah, and so I listen to the same song on repeat 50 times. That's something that I recognize that is now a trait, right? A neurodivergent or ADHD trait. Yes. I believe the flow playlists, they match everything to the same BPM. So, and I saw a really fascinating video that's like, you need to listen to something at the same BPM for minimum 10 minutes. And at that 10-minute mark is when your brain wavelengths start to actually change. So that's why people will take a 3-minute song and listen on repeat many, many, many times, because they're trying to get to that minimum 10-minute mark, right, of that sort of flow. So I think the flow thing, a lot of that's BPM. One thing I'm very fascinated about that you mentioned, because I struggled going to visit clients in-house in an open office and working. So why is that hard? But I thrive going to a cafe where there's noise, right? I feel like there's some nuance or difference there.
Because you also have like comforting noises. So it's like the right volume, and it's not something that would require you to be on alert or to try to analyze. For me, the most harrowing thing I ever had is I mentored someone in SEO, and then he wanted to pay me to work next to him so he could watch me work.
You wanted to watch you? Yeah, that would be terrible.
Yes, because like in between wondering why Huskies are drama queens and running a thing, and then like doing 50 things at the same time, and then coming back to the central thing. Like for me, it's always a loop. I always end up back where I needed to be.
Yeah.
But there's an adventure to that. Like I have a blackboard where I will keep adding stuff. But do you have list of lists?
Yeah, I do. And one of my favorite types of clients to work with are the ones that will come on that journey with me. Even if we're exploring a topical area for their site or something like that, right? Like oftentimes we'll start there, then I'll go to, well, this content idea, and then that technical thing, and then that competitor, and then that, and then like 10 minutes later, we're back at that topic, and we've come up with all these other amazing things along the way. And so I struggle with clients that are like so linear, and they won't go on those journeys.
But this is why we have this specific approach to SEO. Remember, like the whole is bigger than the sum of the parts.
That's right.
Having ADHD enables you to actually see that whole and see how each moving part interacts with the rest.
Yeah.
So as long as you get good at vulgarizing and communicating what you see in your head, what makes sense to you, so other people can onboard, it's amazing. However, if you are a specialist in a situation where people want you to be hyper-focused, want to police your tone, police how you present things because it doesn't match their mold within the company, you are going to struggle. Like there is huge value in being neurodivergent, but if you are stuck in those types of jobs, it's not compatible. I'm after so many years of trying, I can genuinely say it is not compatible. And most people will also go, but if you have ADHD, how can you be your own boss? Because you don't remember to do certain things. Yeah, well, I hate billing. So we divide things up and we know that we're probably going to ask our accountant to handle this.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah.
Like get so good at the rest that you can outsource some of these things. That's it. Don't fight it. Roll with it.
Yeah. So I work with my wife. She runs the whole business side of things and she's amazing. She like pays bills ahead of time. I'm like, wow, that is a skill I don't have. And there was one other thought. Oh, so one of the best things I ever read was Strength Finders, and I took the test. My top strength is ideation. And the best piece of advice I ever got was I have to make sure to over explain my ideas to people, because if I try to take them on the journey and they're like, where's this going? I don't see how this relates. But if I explain, well, along the way, we're going to come up with all of these other amazing ideas. Like, that's why we're doing this. And I have to remind myself to always explain, like, because oftentimes I'll just throw out an idea that seems very random to somebody. But if I explain how it fits in, then they're like, oh, I get that.
I like to quote Shakespeare in this, saying there's a method to my madness.
Yeah.
And if you understand that quote, you understand me. And being a trainer has enabled me to do exactly what you're saying. I realized I got very good at explaining and over-explaining things to onboard people into making this happen.
Yeah.
And there's been that pivot, because currently, with the economy, the way it's going, there's a lot of people who decided that PPC was not necessarily the way they... There's a lot of people...
The mic's like, PPC is not the way to go.
No, it went...
Yeah.
But people are cutting budgets. So obviously anything organic or free is becoming really interesting. But
yeah, I'm seeing that.
Once again, if you're feeling bad about paying for SEMrush, you were going to want to learn how to do it on your own before you invest. So I'm getting a lot of clients who are like, we need to learn this skill now.
Yes.
We can't continue the relationship with the agency. We can't hire someone in-house because we're limited. Like, we have to do this.
Yeah.
I'm great at that.
Yeah. And I know we're over, so you can just like hang up with me or tell me we need to cut it. But I think this is all really good stuff. So one last thing I'll mention about PPC is a big company was like, we just want to slash our PPC entirely. And I'm like, well, before you do that, I don't practice PPC, but every time I've ever logged into any Google Ads account, there's waste. You're ranking for free stuff with ads and you don't have anything free, like negative that out, So I think that's another way to help advise a company that's struggling with that, right? Is I can't set up and run ads, but I can look at the keywords and say, you're wasting a lot of money on this stuff.
So I had a discussion with a friend of mine who appeared on a podcast recently talking about how PPC and SEO should not be done by the same person because they have diverging motivations and diverging points of views. And I came to him because I was laughing a bit. He knows me, and I do teach people how to go about Google Ads. I'm certified in this. I've been teaching it for many years.
Yeah.
My love, first and foremost, is to mess with algorithms. So paid, free, I'm having fun.
Yeah.
However, I don't like PPC for personal reasons because of the inefficiencies you described, because of the limitation. Like, I like having creativity in SEO because we can target the long tail, the true long tail. Like, we can hit on some unexpected gems. And he was telling me, yeah, but SEO should not be this. I'm like, okay, let's discuss this. So the first thing that I do when I audit an account is the same thing you said. Like, where can we cut? Where are we not being efficient? But also, there's a report comparing organic and paid. Like, can we figure out where we're spending money, where competitors are not even showing up, and we already own the SEO? Can we cut this? Can we run some tests?
Right.
So we do that with a client of mine.
Oh, that's a great strategy. Yeah.
But we also have another issue. So sometimes you will have problems with Google features. So I have a client, their brand needs its own branded campaign because Google has a block that translates their brand name into French because they have an English brand name.
Okay.
And that SERP feature comes and goes. So when it's not there, we're number one, it's doing great, fantastic. But when it is there, we have a system set up that will we're going to insert magic, nothing against terms of services, and checks when that block appears so we know to reactivate those branded campaigns. And I was explaining all of this to him and he was like, okay, touché. I agree. In your case, like, this works. So I'm like, yes, but it's the whole vision, understanding how that page works.
That's the difference between running the strategy of SEO and PPC versus, I sort of agree, like, it's hard skill set wise to find somebody, like, I find it rare to find somebody that's really skilled at running the ads, like the actual practitioner, like getting in there and doing SEO. But I think at a strategic level, like having that one vision or that one mind is very good.
So for me, with ADHD, and I would love to talk to someone who does PPC with the ADHD, I am amazing at auditing. I am amazing at improving stuff.
Yeah.
But the day-to-day maintenance of the thing,
the discipline, yeah.
I cannot put into words the face I just made.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
it was a face of like, it's probably the face I make when I think about going on a roller coaster or something like that. I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And that's interesting because that's you and any smart person could probably learn how to run ads. Like you easily could gain that knowledge, but the actual execution, because of the way your brain works, is where that challenge comes into play.
Oh, yes. This is where I have scripts to save me, to pause certain things, send me alerts. Like I need help. And we're good at this. Like we automated a lot of things, but it still ties back to when you have ADHD, I do not advise you to work 6 times as hard as your peers who are not neurodivergent to achieve the same results.
Right.
I did that for many years and I ended up incredibly tired and traumatized. Like, don't do that. Embrace what works for you. Embrace your little quirky rituals that enable you to be good at what you do. And I have one last piece of advice for this, because I had a lot of bosses. I have one that always pops into my head who literally kept telling me, first, as a woman, I was told if you want that promotion, you should smile more. And if I smile that hard, I already found another job, dude. Don't ask me to smile.
Yeah.
And the other element is that people kept telling me, my direct reports were telling me, we love what you do. Clients love you. Like the strategy is amazing, but we need you to tone down. And I quote, this is not a word I would use, but we need you to tone down the crazy.
Wow.
And I was like, you know what? The crazy comes with the skills.
Yeah.
If I didn't have one or the other, you would not enjoy me. You would not find me useful.
Right.
So please stop trying to make me divorce myself. It's not going to work.
Right. Yeah. When I catch myself telling myself that sometimes, or I'm like, oh, I should be a little more buttoned up or something in a meeting. And when I hear that voice in my head, I'm like, actually, no, like, don't do that. Like, don't do that to yourself.
Then I had a mid-50s client of mine that I adore who works at a paragovernmental agency that hires me to teach certain things regularly.
Yeah.
And she was like, you're blonde. I'm like, yep, that's my natural hair color. And she's like, I'm disappointed. I told my boss you had neon orange hair like last time. I was like,
just to wrap things up for people, tell everyone where you would like them to find you online, like website, Twitter, all that stuff.
So first and foremost, let's start with the geolocation. I speak English, but I tend to work with clients who are in international SEO situations. So if you are in Canada, the Benelux, or the DACH area, chances are I understand what you struggle with. And online, well, I have different touch points, let's say.
Yeah.
If you want some very corporate advice and some slight LinkedIn snark, go on my profile.
Yeah.
If you want the full Myriam experience where I will complain very sassily, go on Twitter. This is where you can actually ask me questions. This is where we get to have fun. And if you want to find me to hire me for whatever reason, I would recommend you do it on the PRAGM.co website. So it's PRAGM.co.
Perfect. Great. Well, Myriam, it's been fantastic chatting with you and having you on episode 127 of Experts in the Wire, and we will talk to everyone next time.